There. Hey, everybody, it is Elyse and Kristen, and we're a minute early because Facebook is Facebook, and we were just discussing how challenging Facebook is. So hopefully you'll be jumping on with us in just a second, and we can get started there. If you do jump in, tell me in the comments that you're here, because when we are on StreamYard, which we are right now, I can't see the name. What I see is Facebook users. Yay, Facebook user. Hallie, you're here. Yay. So when I'm talking, I can see your comments, but I can't see who it is unless you have clicked on that StreamYard link above the announcement. So other than that, I just see you as Facebook user, which is such a pain. So let me know in the comments who you are, so Kristen and I can talk to you and not just talk to this anonymous Facebook face. So also, if you're joining, as you join, let me know in the comments that you're here. I can see that more and more people are joining us, so I'm delighted. And I'm going to tell you what you're doing today, and I'm going to introduce Kristen in just a hot minute, so don't go away. We are here to talk about one of my absolutely favorite topics, because it's one that everyone either forgets or downplays or doesn't take seriously enough. Kristen, would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when we met each other through our mutual friend, and you told me what you did, I was like, ooh, this is exactly what this group needs, and exactly what every solo to CEO needs. And we don't pay enough attention to it because it's not sexy, right? So I want to put the zhuzh. Kristen's going to put the zhuzh back in the whole operations aspect, and I'm so glad that you're here. So guys, again, if you're here, let me know. I see Facebook users telling me hi, hi, hi. Let me know in future comments who you are. Put your name in your comments so we can see who you are. Otherwise, you'll just be a Facebook user to us. So let's get this party started. Kristen, welcome. I want to introduce you to all the fabulous women in the Solopreneur to Entrepreneur group. I know you've been in the group for a little bit, so you've been commenting and you've been visible, so that's fantastic. But let me formally introduce you to these peeps. So Kristen Westcott is a business growth strategist and founder of Kristen Westcott Media, who has spent the last decade in the legal and education fields supporting leaders and students in the areas of goal setting, productivity, and project management. Listen to this part. After recognizing her true passion lies in serving entrepreneurs, Kristen honed her skills as a director of operations. Listen, she quickly noticed that what was holding many business owners back wasn't a lack of drive or ability, but a lack of foundational systems that could support the day-to-day operations of scaling a business. This is how important this is, you guys. Not sexy, but so important. So these days, she spends her time helping online coaches, copywriters, and course creators scale without the frustration that massive growth often brings. Kristen, I'm so glad that you're here. We all need this desperately.
So, I'm so glad to be joining you. Thank you.
Good. So Kristen is an amazing ops strategist, and it took me a while when I was doing online business to realize to understand what an operations manager and business manager, ops manager, strategist is, and then you can't believe you haven't had one. So that's what Kristen is focusing on. She helps her clients wrap their heads around systems that they've simply outgrown, and help them find logistical solutions that keep them in the important work of growing their business. You know, I talk a lot in the group and on my Facebook Lives and with my clients about getting anything you can get nailed down in template form and systematic form, in rinse and repeat form, is only going to help you grow, because that helps you then pivot into really being the CEO, not the doer of the ops, right? So any way you can get your arms around that is critical. So let's talk about, we had some conversation ahead of time, Kristen. Let's talk about the kinds of systems that a solopreneur needs to make their business run as they're moving towards their CEO role. That's really what we want to hear today. So you gave me a couple of things you wanted to talk about. Why you guys need to look at systems when they're working so hard to get their business off the ground. What do we need to look at in the beginning?
Yeah. And I think at least you pointed to this, like it's one of the things that is so often overlooked because when you're first getting started, there are just so many things to do, right?
Yeah.
You've got to build your audience and figure out your opt-in and figure out what your offer is. And there's so many pieces and components
Yeah.
that we forget about starting to put some of those systems in place. And then what happens is we grow and grow, but we're still operating as if we have just started our business, right? It's
Yeah.
every
Yes.
single time we bring on a client, we are going back to square one
Yeah.
and redoing everything over again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's crazy making. It's crazy making. But you get so wrapped up in the perpetual motion of moving your business forward that the fact of taking a step back and thinking about what you can systematize is like, oh my God, I don't have time for that. Right.
Yeah. So I really want to address that point because I think that is one of the biggest barriers for people getting these systems in place is this, I don't have time for it.
Yep.
And I totally get it. I mean, you are working, doing a lot of things. I know some people are still working side job, jobs. Well, this is their side job and family home. And I mean, I get it. So what I like to do is find one day a month, just one day a month that I set aside as my CEO day, right? If we want to go from solopreneur to CEO, then we really have to start acting as if. And I don't mean fake it till you make it. I mean like acting as if a CEO has a dedicated time that they sit down and really focus on strategy or vision or whatever for their business. And so when we're starting out, it's really great to have a CEO day. And this could be a Saturday, it could be a Tuesday. It doesn't matter what day it is, as long as you set aside and devote one day to really looking at your business so that you can start to see that growth. And one of the things that you should be looking at during that CEO day is, okay, where am I at? What is the most pressing issue for me right now? And can I put a system in place around that to fix that one problem? Right. And so I like to have a CEO day where I devote a portion of that day to refining or building out a new system that's going to help me see that growth. So that, because I know, Elyse, you talk a lot about vision and goal setting and strategy for your business, but then we often don't put the systems in place for that to be able to happen.
But Kristen, this is like you're preaching to the choir because in the program and in all of my coaching, I talk about CEO time. And I ask everyone who works with me to get a half day or 2 hours or whatever on their schedule every single week so that they can, do a whole bunch of things. But I don't think I've woven in there that the CEO time should be the time to systematize and template what you're doing. I focus on KPIs and strategy and yada, yada. So this is fabulous. So it's great. Just I want to say hello to some people who have joined us. Kathy Goodwin, thanks for joining us. Cindy, glad you're here. Delia, you said this is moves that you just need this big time. So I'm so glad you guys are here. Thanks, you guys. So Kristen, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. No, so I'm just saying, so more along the line. So I like to set aside one day, but 2 hours a week, that's great. If you can do that and you can fit that into your schedule, then you might devote one of those 2-hour blocks to like the KPIs and whatever. And then maybe the next week you focus on systems. And then the next week you're focusing on a different piece. So you don't have to, if you're doing 2-hour blocks, you don't have to sit down and do systems every single week because there are so many other back-end elements that you kind of need to focus on.
Right.
But if you can take 1 2-hour block a month, let's say, and really kind of look at what is going on in my business right now that is causing me stress, that is maybe breaking things down, or maybe that's impacting my revenue, right? That's a big one. And look at how can I systematize something that's going to help me really increase the revenue flow? Because that's the point that we're in business. We're not, we're not having expensive hobbies. We need to kind of generate revenue.
Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, so I want to talk today for the rest of our time together about a couple of the systems that you might want to start putting in place to really kind of help you reach your goals that you've set for the rest of 2020.
Perfect. So before we get off on that, you guys, if you have questions for Kristen, put them in the comments. And I don't think, Kristen, you can see the comments, can you?
I can see the comments.
Oh, you can? Okay. So put them in the comments, and either at the end or what working throughout, Kristen will answer your questions. But don't be shy. You can see she's very approachable. Ask any questions that you have. So, Kristen, what should we be doing then? What should we be looking to create systems around?
So again, this is individual for everyone's business, but the most common systems that I think, I would say over 99% of online businesses should be focusing on are lead generation, content marketing, and then your client onboarding and offboarding. And so I want to kind of touch on each of those systems and
Perfect.
their importance and how we can start to put a system in place for that. And this is where asking those questions is really important, guys, because if I can see those questions as I'm going through it, I can try and give you an example
Great.
that might align with your business in particular. So
Excellent. Great.
let's talk about lead generation, because as an online business, this is one of the most important pieces for how we start to connect with our potential clients and start to bring them into our world and really kind of nurture them along to the point where they start to work with us. So it's great to have a lead generation system in place that is functioning all the time, because one of the things, and we were kind of touching on this a little bit, at least before we went live, is that when we're entering a launch or when we're in launch mode, like there are just so many components to a launch that we don't have time to actively lead generate at the same time. So if you can have a system in place that is kind of working in the background, then we're not in this boom and bust cycle of, okay, I'm launching, now I'm serving, then I'm marketing, now I'm serving. And we kind of go back and forth so that we can continue to have that marketing, that lead generation coming in automatically while we're serving our clients, so that we don't start to see this big roller coaster of revenue. So for a lead generation system, I mean, it depends on what your lead magnet is or what your call to action is, but you want to have a way that people are going to come into your world. So whether that's a quiz, a PDF, whether you're doing Facebook Lives, like thinking about what is that very first touch point that they have with you, that they even find out who you are, right? Who Nancy even is, right? And then thinking, okay, now from there, what is the easiest way for me to get them into my world and coming into contact with me? And this is where it's important to, whatever your process is for that. So if you are a big Instagram person and your lead generation is coming from doing stories and lives and what have you, then looking at a process that you can put in place for how am I going to pull them from there into working with me, into my DMs. Or if they are DMing you, what is your next step to pulling them into your email list, right? I'm a big believer that we need to be building and nurturing.
Always. Yeah.
And so thinking, how can we get them in to our email list? And, do we have a really robust welcome sequence in place? And one of the things I like to do is I like to go through every quarter and look at my nurture sequences, because our businesses are changing. We're offering.
Oh, that is so important. Oh my gosh, I'm taking notes. That's great. Every quarter to revisit that. That's fantastic, because I think we have a tendency, those of us who are in online marketing all the time, you have a tendency to set it and forget it. So that's great advice.
And, and so you can tweak that and go back through and look and be like, is this really the best blog post or video to send them to in my second email, right? Maybe I've got an updated one that actually speaks more to what people are going through right now. Or, maybe your call to action was always to book a call, but now you've launched a membership and now you want them to join your membership. So looking at, going back and looking at those nurture sequences and seeing what might be out of date and need to be updated and what is kind of still holding true. And this is where you can go back and start to add some of those testimonials. So when we're first getting started, we don't have all of the case studies and testimonials, whatever that we see a lot of the big marketers having. But this is your chance that, 4 or 6 months down the road, you've got a few of those. And so now you can go back and add some of that social proof into that system that you already have in place, keeping it current and up to date.
I'm going back to revisit mine, because I really have set it and forget it for a couple of the lead magnets that I'm working with. And I it's ridiculous. So thank you for that reminder. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Good. And so for not everybody is working online. So for the people who have a retail store, or who are, I'm looking at Delia, who has a dog walking business, where their business might not be online focused. What kind of lead generation process would you suggest, or just touch on for those guys?
Again, I think for physical businesses or services, it's really important to look at where are your clients and customers coming from. And so it might even just be as simple as having that conversation with them, during the transition of drop off and pickup of their animal, or, when they come to check out, just having that conversation, say, hey, commenting about the product or their dog or whatever, and saying, how did we get connected? I'd love to know. And really kind of taking note of that so that you can start to capitalize on that. And for the majority of brick and mortar and services, it's referral based.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at what can you do to be going out there to be nurturing those relationships that are going to bring those people in your door or bring in those referrals. Right now, we are somewhat limited with social distancing,
Right.
but looking at how did that person get to you? How did you get to this client for this dog walking, and what can you do to nurture that relationship to keep those clients and customers coming in? And that might be going to some local meetups. It might be attending a trade show. It might be collaborating with another store or another service to kind of
Right.
partner with, like pet grooming and dog walking, and looking at what kind of promotion you can put together for something like that will jointly benefit you and your collaborators. So there's so many ways that we can start to collaborate
Yep.
with other people to bring in the leads into our business.
That brings up a good point that I think those of us who are in solopreneur hair on fire mode forget is how much you can learn from talking to your clients. Just in so many areas to learn what you can do better, to learn how they find you, how they can get to you. It just gives you so much fuel for how to bring the business forward. And I think we forget to do that because we're so busy moving forward. So thank you for that. That's great.
Yeah.
What else do we want to know about building systems? You said there are 3.
Yeah. So the next one would be like content marketing. So this is keeping, people's eyes on you in some form. And so content marketing could be regular Facebook Lives. It could be podcasts. It could be blog posts. If you are, again, a brick and mortar or a service type business, you can still be active on social media. Because even though you're operating a dog walking service, or, you have a retail store and you sell beauty products or something, people are still going to be seeing you and finding you, on social media.
Yep.
So looking at what are some of the things that you can kind of put out there. And if we don't have a strategy and a system in place, then we can be very inconsistent in what we're putting out there. And then people forget about us because somebody else who's offering something very similar has been consistent in getting their attention. And so it's so important, not necessarily the frequency, but the consistency and the quality of what you're putting out there in the online space is really what matters with your clients. So you got to build a strategy and a system around consistent quality content.
I so agree with that. What consistency is more important than anything else, I think, because I think we think that no one's paying attention. If we haven't had people comment, if we haven't had people ask questions or whatever, if there's no feedback, we think that no one's seeing us, and that's just not the case. So it's your job as a marketer to just put out whatever your content creation is going to be on an extremely consistent basis, whether or not someone's paying attention, because they are, and they will, and they'll come back, and they will forget about you unless you are there. So that is so important. Very good.
So this is, again, where you can use another part of your CEO day to batch together some content so that the following week, when you're really busy, you have something to put out. And so one of the, like, when I think of systematizing this, I think of, okay, one day I'm going to go in and research all of my topics, right? And so I like to have about 6 to 8 different kind of like buckets of topics that I'll talk about, right? So systems and team structure and hiring and my life as an entrepreneur, and right. So having like 6 different kind of topics to rotate through, and I'll go through and I'll brain dump all the possible questions people have asked me, or all of the different ways I could talk about that particular topic in a nice big list. And so I use Asana. You can use a notebook. You can use anything, just going to make sure that you have a list of these things kind of organized topically. And I'll go through once a month and continue to brain dump all of my ideas. And then I will pick, 3 or 4 topics from each of those categories and say, okay, this is going to be my content for the month. And then I'll sit down and I'll actually outline or batch out what the long form content is going to be. And so long form content is your Facebook Lives, your blog posts, your podcast, anything that's going to be taking you 10 minutes or so to put out there, right? Like a 10-minute video or a 20-minute video, whatever that might look like. Then from there, I'll look at that and say, okay, what are 3 different pieces I can take from this to turn into short form content? And by short form content, that's our social content. That's our
Brilliant.
Instagram
Brilliant.
stories, our posts, our 2-minute Instagram story video content that we're going to want to direct them to that long form content. And then I will look at, again, putting right into your content marketing strategy is how often are you going back to double check the engagement with that? Because if you just post and then leave it up there and you don't ever reply back to the people that have taken
Rude.
then they're not going to bother to comment on your next post,
Right.
you know? And then if they don't comment, then the algorithms think that they're not interested in it anymore. And then they're less likely to show it. So you have to make sure that built into that system is somewhere in there, where in your day are you going to go back and make sure you respond back to every single comment on your social media platform?
This is great. We talk a lot in the group about calendar blocking. And this is, I mean, even just to take 15 minutes, once a day, 10 minutes once a day to go check to see if anyone's responded to the content that you put out of there has to be a piece of the puzzle. So excellent. Great.
And then once a week, I like to do this on Fridays because by Fridays, I'm a little bit wiped.
Yeah.
But blocked into my content marketing system is every Friday, I have an hour block in my calendar where I literally go through everything I've posted that week and look at the comments.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, I'm not looking to reply back. I mean, unless I need to reply back at the time. But this time, what I'm looking for is themes on their questions. So what are some of the things that they've resonated with? So maybe one of my posts got 50 comments and another one got 20 or another one got 10, then I'm looking at the one that got 50 comments and went, okay, what was that topic? Because that obviously really hit home with people. And I'm making a note of that in another spreadsheet. So again, I have another column in Asana where I kind of start to put together these topics that got some great engagement. And then I comb all of the comments to see what were people saying, what were the words that they were using.
What were the words they were using?
The language.
Yeah.
And I'll pull those out because now those become my phrases to use in other pieces of content.
Yeah. In their words. So you're not talking in your words. I think a lot of what we talk about in the group and in the program is getting out of your own head, because it's your head. It's not your customer's head. Yeah. And we in the beginning, we make assumptions about what people want to hear and want to know, but you have to ask them. You have to hear it from them. So going back and getting their language is perfect. So that's great. Good.
And then you never run out of content, right? Because this is what I hear people say is, I don't know what I'm going to say, or can I really come up with something to say every week? Or I'd love to start a podcast, but I don't know what I would say over the next, after 12 weeks, I have no content left. They're giving you that content. Every question they ask, every comment they make, everything that they are pointing out to you, a struggle they're having, that is your content. And so they are going to be giving that to you on a daily basis or however frequently you're posting.
Right.
So you just need to make sure you have a system in place to go and capture that.
Excellent. So good. Good. The other thing that I want to caution people about, and Kristen, I don't know if you agree with this or not, is it's very easy to get hung up in something like content calendars or content creation. And the necessity of doing it is clear, but don't overthink stuff because you will get stuck. So every blog post doesn't have to be a Bible. It doesn't have to be, don't overthink. Your business. What the hot points are for people. What you want to talk about. Just get it out of your mouth and on paper or on a blog post. Don't overthink, because overthinking will make you paralyzed. And that's the last thing you want to be. You want to be fluid in your content creation.
Yeah. And then I want to just add to that, Elyse, because I think that is such an important message for people to hear. And often, again, as we're building our businesses, we don't stop to think about how we consume content from other people. And we don't read every single blog post, even of our favorite bloggers. We don't read every single email, every single Facebook post. We can't consume that kind of information. Right. And so we get hung up really on putting this content out there because we're, pinching words and really trying to figure that out. And the people that are consuming our content are not picking it apart that closely.
Right. Yeah. And you're not writing the great American novel. You're communicating.
Get it out there for them to consume and repurpose it. Yeah. Not everybody open that email. If you check your email open rate and you have an open rate of 2% or 10%, that means the other 80 and 90% and 98% didn't read it.
Yeah.
So take that content, put it into social, put it into a blog post, do a roundup of some of your best top tips you've sent out to your email, list and put them into another form of content, because 90 or 98% of the people didn't see it. So let's repurpose that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel every single time we sit down to create content.
And that in itself is a fabulous system. The repurposing process. How many, if you write one blog post that's 400 or 500 words, how many ways can you repurpose that? Can you do a video of it? Can you do an audio of it? Can you can you put it on YouTube? Can you put it in your website? As you said it yourself, go through it and take 3 or 4 snippets and make that your social post for the next week. So one good piece of content can create bazillions of other pieces of content without you having to work any harder. Great system.
Yeah. And all you have to do is have a way to track this. So use there's a lot of free project management systems out there that you can use in a variety of ways, right? Those of you who are very creative minded, there's board view where you can really literally see what you've done with that content, and then you can move it along, right? Have I created it? Has it gone to Facebook? Has it gone to email, right? And you just kind of move it along to whatever you've done with that content.
Right.
Airtable is another great one because you can set up boxes to tick off the column, and you can have your long form content title and then just mark off as you've repurposed it onto other platforms. So you can keep track of what you can do. And these are free systems that you can use that are very, very intuitive to set up.
Great. Awesome.
And saves you time. I'm a big believer of saving time. And
absolutely.
And not only that, but saving your brain capacity. Like we receive so much information that I don't want to have to think about where did I post this?
Yeah.
I want to be able to literally log into Airtable and be like, okay, it's going on LinkedIn next. I don't want to think about those little things. I have to think about so many more important pieces of my day that I don't want to have decision fatigue for the little components that can easily be tracked in a system.
That's great. This is the kind of thing a VA can do for you, right? You write that one piece of content and your VA can repurpose it in a million different directions and certainly do the tracking around that. So easy to get off your desk. As we're talking more in the group about building your team, that's one of the things right away that someone can start doing for you at not much money for you and really clean out your brain. I had to laugh. You and I were talking about, I don't remember if we're live at that point or not, but we're talking about by Friday, we're kind of spent. I get to the point where at both the end of the day and the end of the week, I don't have any more space in my brain to take on any more information. So my son will say, what do you want to make for dinner? I'm like, I can't even process that. It's just one more decision I have to make. So we have to work with that. We have to honor where we need to be thinking and on point and where we can send that off in different directions for other people to help us with or create a system or a template to work.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And on that note, I see so many people hesitant to hire someone else because they haven't figured out their system. Mm-hmm. And I want to say you need to have a general idea of what you want to do, but your virtual assistant, this is what they do. This is what they're trained in. So they can help you create that system, or they might even already have a system they use with one of their other clients. That they
Absolutely. Sweet Hallie has taught me. Hallie, shout out to you. You have taught me more about things I can be doing better because you've got other clients that you're working with and you're bringing that all to the table. And I learned very early that I'm not a detail person and someone else around me will do a much better job than I can in doing whatever that thing is. So absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Rely on their area of expertise, right? Stay in your lane. You be creative and you deliver the service to your clients, but allow somebody else to support you in the creating of your systems if this is something that is really giving you kind of a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah. Good deal. Good. Done with content marketing? You want to move on?
Yeah. So this is my favorite one. And this is client onboarding and offboarding is definitely a system we all need to have in place. And one of the most important reasons for this is because it doesn't matter what marketing platform pops up in the next couple of months, the best form of marketing is always word of mouth. It has been for hundreds of years and it's going to be for hundreds more to come. And so having a great client onboarding and offboarding process is going to have people selling your services for you, recommending you to other people, and really kind of helping you stand out in whatever platform you're on. Because even though we're all being marketed, like this particular beauty product, we're still going to take the word over our friend who said, oh my goodness, I got this amazing lipstick that lasted all through dinner and it didn't leave a mark on my glass, right? We're going to be like, oh, what one was that? Mm-hmm. So it's having a great onboarding and offboarding process really, really has a big impact on your revenue, more than we even dream of. And so again, it comes back to how has that person found you, and how easy is it for them to take that next step to work with you? And so this sometimes, like sometimes I'll go onto people's websites and I'll be like, I just want to email them. Like I just want to ask them something. And I cannot find anywhere to contact them, to book a call, to be able to work with them in any capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so same thing happens sometimes in our social media. If we don't have a call to action or anywhere that they can connect with us, then looking at how hard are we making it for them to actually give us their money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we start, is looking at, can we make that easy for them? And then as soon as they connect with us, how easy are we making that whole process? Are we answering their questions before they're even asking them? Is the payment integration smooth and are they given login information, or, their dog walking times? Like, how easily do we onboard people into the process or the service that we're working on with them, so that they're not left feeling like, this was so frustrating. We had to email
Mm-hmm.
for 10 times before I finally figured out what I was supposed to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to make that so that it's just like, it's like walking into a luxury hotel, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want the concierge to come and greet us and take our bag and walk us up to the check-in and give us all the details. We want to do that very same thing for everyone that we bring on board. And so looking at in your business is, what are those questions? What are those next steps? And putting those together nicely in either an email or a welcome kit, or something that can be presented to them, the second they make that transaction.
I used to have two cats. They are no longer with us. I miss them every day. And I hired a cat sitter while we went on vacation one time. And I could not believe how she had her act together. She walked in. I was deciding whether or not to hire her. She walked in with a whole questionnaire that she needed answers to before she could give me a quote and decide whether or not we were a good fit. And once I hired her, she had an equally succinct but really excellent onboarding process. And I thought, this woman has her act together. It was fantastic. And it increased the trust factor 100-fold. I no longer worried about my cats. They were in very good hands. But that's the same with us. If it is seamless, then if you do this right, you must do everything else right as well. So it just improves the trust factor within the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, whether you're brick and mortar or online, you should have a scheduler, right? Calendly and Acuity are both free.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Have a way to connect with people so that there's no back and forth about the call time.
Right.
Right in the email, you're having them give you their phone number if that's how you're calling them, or you're putting the Zoom link if that's how you're meeting, right? Right in there. That's all built in.
Right.
So there's never a question of when and where and how. And who's calling who, and right, how are we going to get information? And in those platforms, you can add on an intake form as well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is great for you to get the basic information and then scope them out, right? Whatever information you've asked for, let's say you're somebody who's looking at somebody else's website or their social media, so that when you come to that call, you have a way to connect with them and build that rapport, right? If you followed them on social and you see that they have cats or dogs or whatever, then you can always connect with them on something general
Personal.
to kind of put them at ease at the beginning of that call before you like jump in and get all business.
Right. Excellent. Good. Offboarding now, that's a topic that is never discussed. So tell us more about that. Never discussed.
I know. And I think that's the thing, is we hear about onboarding, and some of us will put onboarding in place. Very rarely do we wrap things up nicely with a little bow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like that letdown after an event, right? Where everything's finished and you're kind of like, now what? Was that it? Right? Like, is there an encore? Like, what's happening here? And so a lot of times we'll work with people and then it'll be the end of their session, or, if they're purchasing something, you just pass them their bag and that's the end of the transaction. But looking at what else can you do during an offboarding process, they don't feel like it's kind of just been like an abrupt halt to things. And so things that you can include in an onboarding process are, first of all, a little bit of prep for the offboarding. So if you've been working with somebody on an ongoing basis, or, you've been pet sitting for them or something like that, kind of preparing them a little bit in advance. Okay, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be wrapping up this portion. This is what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. Like letting them know, like, I know I have to deliver on these 3 things. I know I'm still coming on these 3 days, right? But then after that, this is kind of what's going to happen. This is how things are going to end. I'm going to make sure you have access to everything in this drive. You'll have 7 days to download it, right? Giving them all of the heads up about that so that when it comes to the very end, there's just not like, okay, here's your document. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that, you want to build out asking for a testimonial and asking for feedback separately.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I say this is because testimonials are fantastic for building that social proof, but we also want to be able to get some feedback so that we can, improve on even a great service. And people, you don't want to do that at the same time because the feedback will impact their ability to give you that glowing testimonial. So I like to ask for the testimonial first. So I don't know how many of your group are online coaches that would work with somebody for like a prolonged period of time versus like short-term.
A good chunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those of you who work with people on an ongoing basis, I would ask for that testimonial right after somewhere in your program they're going to have had that breakthrough. So this might be 6 weeks in, this might be 8 weeks in, but when people are going to have that big switch in your program. That's when I would ask for the testimonial. You don't always have to wait till the end. Testimonials aren't an end of thing. It's what has happened to them during the program. What has their experience been like during that service?
Right.
So you can ask for it then, ask for it first, you get that information. And then at the end, I always ask for feedback and I make that anonymous. So I'll set up a Google form that doesn't track their email. And I have them just kind of give me that feedback after the fact anonymously so they can feel comfortable without hurting my feelings
that's
to what it is that they would think. And especially if you work with women, this is an important part because as women, like we fall in love with the person that we've been following who's been mentoring us for 12 weeks. And we don't want to say anything negative
to hurt their feelings,
experience
right?
that we've had because we don't want to upset them because we've built a relationship with them.
Right.
But if I can anonymously tell you like, hey, Elyse, it would have really helped me if I'd got an email at the start of each week reminding me about the call, right? Like, let's just say, right? Then I know that that's something that would have been important to them, but they haven't had to feel like they're hurting my feelings for me to improve the program for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I always do that afterwards because if we do the feedback first, then there's kind of that negative connotation in their mind that will flatten out a glowing testimonial.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Very strategic. Very good. Good. And also having and also I would add a next step to that, which is after you've asked for the testimonial kindly and they've given you one, and then you've asked for feedback, then don't forget to let them know how they can continue to work with you. Right. So don't have that be the presumed end of the relationship. Presume that they're going to want to continue working with them and give them next steps.
Yes, absolutely. So if you are working in a one-on-one capacity with somebody, you can put together a nice little document in Canva that kind of wraps things up. So for example, because I do operations and back-end stuff, I will a lot of times have my clients, systems laid out and I'll give them a one-page Canva with the link to all of their Google Docs. And then below that, I'll say, these are likely going to be the places that you're struggling with. So I've done 3 different videos here to walk you through
how to make
this change in Asana, how to make this change in Dubsado, because if you change your prices, then your system is going to change a little bit. This is how to go about making that change. And so they have a couple of videos they can go back to if they've forgotten what we've talked about. And then I'll say, and if you want any future systems built out, I am happy to talk to you about that as one of my, valued customers. Your next service, your next whatever is 10% off. So here's your link to your coupon code that you'll put in. And this will work for those of you in product-based businesses as well, right? Is to wrap things up by saying, thank you so much for, your support, for supporting the business, for working together. I would love to work with you again. It's been such a great experience. Here's, a coupon or a 10% off or whatever towards your next thing. Or if you have an affiliate or a partner program, this is a great way to say, if you share this with your friends, right, I do offer a 20% commission on XYZ.
Right. That's fantastic. Good. I don't think we have time to talk about customer service. We'll do that another time, or you can do that in the group. But I don't see any more questions, you guys. If anybody has questions, do you want to just throw them into the comments? I haven't seen anything. Kristen is here and would love to answer them. I want to say, when I file this video, when we're done on Facebook, in the description above, I will put how to get in touch with Kristen. her social media links. And also, Kristen, let's go back to your challenge. You have that wonderful challenge that's coming up week after next. Why don't you give me the link to that, and I can put that in the description as well, so people can come join you on your challenge, because this has been fabulous. I'm sure the challenge will be 100 times better. So even better than this has been. So would love that. Any questions for Kristen? I don't see anything. I don't know if again, Facebook is misbehaving or what it is.
Sometimes it's hard to think of them immediately, and I am in the group, so feel free to pop your question and tag me. If you tag me, I get the notification.
Right.
And I'm happy to kind of answer your questions, but if you have a specific question about your business and what that might look like, I'm happy to address this.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful to make yourself available. I really appreciate that. So just a reminder, you guys, in the description above the video will be information on how to contact Kristen and how to sign up for her challenge coming up week after next. I think that'll be fantastic. I also want to remind you that if you haven't signed up for the Solo to CEO Launchpad, what on earth are you waiting for? There will be a link above as well to sign up for the Launchpad. That's starting Monday at noon in the group. It goes for 5 days. Extremely valuable. People who've taken the Launchpad come back again and again because they get so much value out of it. So if you haven't signed up, please do. And Kristen, thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome, guys. Everybody had good comments. I just think this was fantastic, and we don't talk about systems enough. So hopefully you'll come back another time and we can do more of this.
Absolutely. You just let me know.
Okay. Thanks so much. Guys, I'll see you later in the group. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.